Well, hello again everybody, and we're back on the Cobra 21 LTD. And when you were last here, I spent most of the time putting right the damage that I did to this poor unsuspecting radio. Hopefully we won't destroy anything else today. One thing that we did identify is that we've got this dodgy display that's got some segments out, and I'm not sure whether or not we've got segments out because it's a problem with the LEDs. Maybe the LEDs have failed, or it could equally well be a problem with the channel select switch here. What you can usually do is you can normally just rock the knob backwards and forwards or push it in and out, and if it's a bad contact that will often, you know, just respond temporarily. Well, it's not doing that. The segments that are out seem to be staying out, put it that way. So I think it is more likely that there is actually a problem with the LEDs. Now hopefully you can see we've also got another circuit board down here, and unfortunately this circuit board, I can also see that it's fallen prey to some of the brown black glue, which you know, turns nasty and corrosive and conductive. So it could be that there's some damage to one of the resistors or the diode network down there, which controls the display. It could be that anyway. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to try is just trying to give the selector switch a clean, see if it responds to that. So this selector switch is made in kind of two halves. You can see there's one half and there's another half, and hopefully you can see on the camera, if I just push it, you can open these slightly. So I'm just hoping that what I can do is I can just slip this knife in, just separate the two parts, and I'm just really hoping that if I'm lucky I can get some switch cleaner in there and give it a good spray. Of course I've lost my straw now for the cleaner. Where's that gone? Where's my straw? So there is quite a few scrape marks on top of here, so I think I'm definitely not the first person to have a go at cleaning this. Somebody else has tried it as well. So maybe they had the same problem. So I think I did manage to get a good amount of that spray cleaner inside this selector switch, and it's made no difference. The same segments that are failing are still failing, so that wasn't it. So unfortunately I also managed to cover our circuit board in service oil. I'll try and clean that up afterwards. So I know that a lot of you have subscribed to my channel. You're already pretty expert in CBs. You've done this hundreds of times, haven't you? But to me a lot of this is new, so it's kind of interesting for me. So this board here is the bottom of the channel select switch, and I can see that there's another board where the display is mounted, which is actually soldered on at right angles. So we've obviously got another possible and almost a likely culprit, because, you know, we could have a crack in the solder joints between where these two boards meet. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's certainly possible. And looking at the soldering on here, a lot of the soldering does look, I'm just going to say, it looks quite poor. So I think it is probably worth me going over some of these joints with a soldering iron, and I'm just going to say touching up the joints. I probably won't suck all the solder off initially. I'll just touch them up, and if we get an improvement I'll go back and maybe solder them a bit more properly. So it looks like we've also had a spider living in this radio, because it's left its web over everything. So I think what we're also going to have to do is clean all this lot up, because it can't help, can it, all this dust and dirt and grime. It must be slightly conductive on some of the tracks across the pads, so I think we need to get rid of that as well, so we'll clean that up. I've got to admit, I'm not exactly sure the best way to get access to this little channel select board. I'm assuming that I do need to take the front of the radio off, but I'm not sure. And I've also remembered that we've got to replace the light in the SWR meter, the power, the signal strength meter. The bulb's gone in it, so I need to take a look at that at some point as well. I've actually ordered some replacement bulbs, but they're going to be delivered to my work, so I don't have them here with me. So it looks like to get this apart I've got to undo this channel select knob, and I don't think I've got anything that's going to be deep enough to reach down into there. In fact, I'm fairly sure that I won't have. I don't like to use things like these pliers, but I haven't got anything else. I don't think these will reach either. I do have sockets and things like that, but the problem is it's such a long shaft on this thing that I wouldn't be able to even get a socket on anyway. You'd need something like maybe a deep box spanner or something like that. I don't even think a deep socket would go on it, but yeah, maybe we can try that, putting it back on. I think that's coming out now. Certainly we'll need the correct tool to tighten it back up again, that's for sure. Well, I had quite a close look at those joints, and to be honest I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But it is worth just seeing if anything's changed. No, that certainly doesn't seem to have improved anything. Missing the same two top segments here. So I think the next thing that I'm going to have to try is just removing the board, because I think I'll probably end up removing this board anyway. If it is a bad display, then we're going to end up taking it off, so we might as well just take it off now. Assuming of course that I can actually get the thing off. And I think what I'm going to do is cover it in flux and try to use some solder braid to get it off. I can't really get in with that. I think it will have to be the solder braid. I think that should come off now. Yeah. So there's the display board. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and see if we can test the segments on the display now. Well, I've just gone ahead and I've found a data sheet for this display which is used in this radio, which is it's two 7-segment displays which are joined together in one package, and I have tested it, and this has indeed got some failed segments inside it. At least that's good to know. We have actually got a failed LED display here, and the way I tested that, I just used my my meter on its diode test range, and it's got just about enough current to very dimly illuminate some of these segments. So maybe I can just show you that. Might come out on camera, it might not. Hope you can see that one of them's lit at the top. Let me try and find another one. There's a bar on the side there, one on the right hand side, one in the middle. But I tested them off camera, and yeah, basically the ones that we thought had failed, which are the ones at the top here, 2 of them have failed. Well, actually I think there's 3 failed, which that does line up with what we were seeing on the radio. So we've got to try and find some replacement LEDs for that. I'm not sure whether we've got any in stock or not, I don't know. Now, unfortunately, just looking through the hoard, I haven't actually got anything that'll fit that. So I've just been outside with the radio and I vacuumed it out, and then I sprayed a load of IPA all over the circuit board and give it a good scrub with a wife's toothbrush as per normal. Now I have to say this circuit board was absolutely filthy. It wasn't only full of dust and dirt and spiders' webs, and the remains of dead spiders. It also had a lot, I can only describe it as little bits of solder all over it. It was like it was covered in metallic grit. I don't know what somebody could have done before. Maybe it was left over from the manufacturing process, but there was an awful lot of what could have been little short circuits. I spent quite a bit of time cleaning up the circuit board, and it's not perfect, but it is a lot better than it was. And now I've got a better look at it, there is a lot of potential for other dry joints and stuff like that. So I think we'll have to go over this board and suck some of the old solder off and put a bit of flux on and resolder it. Now the other thing that I was going to do today was start to have a look at maybe recapping it, and so I downloaded some circuit diagrams and had a look at them, and also read through the alignment instructions, and it became quite clear to me that the previous circuit diagrams that I had for this Cobra 21 LTD, they weren't the right diagrams. If you actually do a search on this particular radio, this Cobra 21 LTD, well, just take the first part of the name actually, Cobra 21. There is at least 5 variants of this Cobra 21, and unfortunately the only set of schematics I can't find online are the one for this particular version, which is the 21 LTD. You can find lots of them for the version which they call, I think, the 21 Classic, and then there's, I think, the 21 GL or GLX or something like that. There must be at least 5 of them, like I say, and sod's law, the only one I can't find is this one. So what I did was I did a search on this actual circuit board, and I also typed in Cobra, and I had a feeling it might be made by this company Dynascan. So what I did was I typed in this number here on the circuit board. So we've got this number here, this PC-417, and I think that's also repeated on this label here, PC-417-AF. I did some searching on that, and what that actually came up with was a completely different radio. It came up with a radio called the Cobra 25, and that's about the closest circuit diagram that I've managed to find. This is a photograph of the Cobra 25, and if you look, it's got the same heatsink arrangement, it's got the same transformers in the corner there, transformers, and I'm guessing a choke. It looks to have similar audio amplifiers. I think there's one there, one in the corner, but mainly these tuning pots and the controls looking the same place, and it also has a similar Dynascan board number written on it. So it's not totally the same. I don't know if because the 25 has a different circuit here. I don't know if it's got something to do with microphone processing on. I'm not exactly sure. It's got some other features, but certainly when it comes to the alignment and stuff like that, it looks very, very similar. It's got a more modern variable capacitor there. It uses a different PLL. I don't know how different, but certainly a lot of it looks very similar. So certainly the instructions that I found with the 25 are certainly a lot closer to the ones for the 21. So for those playing along at home, the circuit diagrams I'm going to be referring to are the circuit diagrams for the Cobra 25 LST. Now, I think it's probably fair to say there's a little bit of a trap for young players like me out there that haven't done a lot of work with CBs before. These had such long production runs. They went over various versions of the circuit board, and you know, I had completely the wrong one before, so yeah, that's my bad. Now, unfortunately, we seem to be at that stage in the restoration where everything's getting worse. Everything I actually touch breaks or falls apart. I'm sure we've all been there. And the latest thing just to fall apart is this channel select switch. Well, it's not the switch itself. It's a ribbon cable, and you're probably going to say it was the solvent I put on it. It wasn't. This was falling apart before I even started to clean it, but the little bit of wiggling about it that I've given it, it's just all come loose. So basically what's happened here is that you can see we've actually just got the copper strips left, but the actual plastic has just crumbled away. So I think what I'm going to have to try to do is I'm going to have to try to fix that, because we're not going to get any sense out of this, because yeah, the wires are falling apart. So we've got that to do next. And I thought for the first attempt at this repair I was just going to try and use some ribbon cable, although the pitch is quite a bit different. I'm hoping that that might be better than trying to do it with lots of separate wires. But I don't know, ribbon cable, it can be quite hard to strip the cores separately, can't it? So we'll have a go, but we may end up just rewiring it with you know, normal stranded wire or something like that. I don't know, we'll have to see how we go. Yep, and my paste desoldering tool does seem to be about as useless as it normally is. I've never seen a ribbon cable fail quite like that before. So I'm left with all these little spider's legs of copper. I am just going to check that they are bare copper and they're not a resistance value. I don't think they are, but I'm going to just double check that. Probably totally unnecessary, but I once did have a ribbon cable that looked a lot like that, and it turned out that it wasn't just a wire, it was actually kind of a resistive cord that they'd used to drive a display, and that cost me a lot of trouble, that, in the end. In fact, this is obviously some kind of special copper that doesn't conduct at all. Okay, 4 ohms, whatever. So that's just that is just copper. Problem you'll have, or I'll have, is can I actually strip 10 of these without damaging any of them? It's quite handy that this stuff has got the colours on it, so hopefully that should help me at least keep the wires in the right order. And another problem using this ribbon cable is the wires inside it are just so very thin and delicate. It's so easy when you're trying to trim it back to cut the cores out. You've only got to, there's not actually that many strands inside it, and you've only got to damage a few of them to be kind of left with you know, a piece of cable that isn't usable. Okay, so far so good. Okay, that's one side trimmed off. Let's see if I get lucky and I can do the other side. Ah, damn. Sometimes when it stops stripping, this yellow one just doesn't want to strip. There we go. I thought I was going to lose that one then. Can you hear my cat grumbling in the background? Probably wants feeding. That cat's always hungry. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so I've made up my little ribbon cable. Now I'm not actually sure which is my pin 1, but I don't really think it matters as long as I you know, stick to the putting the wires in the right order. Yeah, this could only end badly, can't it? If this works, what I'll probably have to do is maybe put some hot melt glue on to hold it down, give it a bit more mechanical strength. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That seems okay. So of course we are going to have to come back at some point in the future and resolder this LED display which goes on the front of the channel select switch, because we've got that all disassembled. There's the board there. And I did go away and check this. I put it on the power supply and quite a few of the segments are dead, so we did need to swap that out. But this whole control and the shaft itself, it is really corroded. It's obviously been stored damp or wet at some point in the past. Now I guess while I've got the front off here, I might as well have a quick look at the lamp, the meter lamp. So there's our little wheat bulb. I think they call them a grain of wheat bulb or something like that, don't they? And it looks like this has been replaced in the past because all the wires are all manked up. They look a bit of a mess. Well, we'll cut them and we'll find some new bits of wire to put on there, I think. So here's a little lamp that I've removed from the power meter, and it has definitely blown. Unfortunately I haven't got any of these little bulbs. I have ordered some and they will be here next week, but I think what I might do is, well, because I'm here and now, I might just try doing an LED replacement lamp. Might work, might not, I don't know, let's give it a try. So I've gone ahead and I've found an LED, but I don't know if it'll be any good because unfortunately it's not particularly diffused, this light, and it might give us like a hot spot in one corner. But I think it's worth a try. I've got hundreds of these LEDs. I'm just going to try scuffing it up with some emery paper or something like that, and maybe it'll give us a bit more of a diffused light source. It's worth a try, isn't it? Let's give it a go. Well, I've got no idea if that'll make any difference, but I've just scuffed it all up the surface of it using emery, so it's much more like a, what do you call it, opaque. You can't really see through it anymore, so hopefully that might just help diffuse the light output a little bit. Don't know. Well, I'm willing to give that a try, I think. Might work, might not. I think we might want to turn the brightness down a bit. That does seem quite bright, doesn't it? So what was that? 10 milliamps at about 3 volts? Something like that. As you can see, I've gone ahead and I've fitted our little LED into our meter. It does seem to be bright enough. Maybe it could be a bit brighter. I've put quite a conservative resistor value in there. There's about a 2k resistor, and the math said we only needed 1k, but I decided I didn't want to run it super bright anyway because I thought that would just be more annoying. But once I illuminate this little meter, I could also see that the needle here isn't zeroing. It kind of just gets jammed, and I did try using the diode test function on my voltmeter just to power the meter, and it does start to go over and then it gets jammed and then falls back again. So I think there must be something jamming this meter movement up, so I need to have a go at trying to clean that out. So it is trying to move, but it's just getting jammed. So what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to try and get this apart, and I've never done this before, never undone one of these meters, so it could go horribly wrong. So unfortunately this meter is also completely stuck. Now the first thing I tried was just blowing it out with an air duster to see if it had returned, to see if there was anything caught in it. Now it was very dusty and dirty inside, but no, that doesn't seem to have addressed the problem. So what I'm going to have a go at next is just undoing the pivot screws on it and seeing if it'll realign. So what I've done is I've just squirted some acetone, and I'm just going to use a straw to drop some on the pivot point, and I'm hoping that that's just going to dissolve the glue on it. Yeah, which it has done, I can see that. So while that's wet, I'm going to just release the screw on the pivot point, and I'm really hoping that it will return then, but it might not. Ah, that seems to have released now. Now the needle is going a little bit below 0, and there's another adjustment we could do there. I think that would be the positive and negative adjustment, but to be quite honest, I'm not going to touch it. As long as the needle moves, I don't care, it's cosmetic. So in theory now we can just go ahead and reinstall our meter, but I've got to connect up the 2 lights to drive the LED, and I'm not sure which one of these is positive or negative, so we're going to have to find that out. Because of course it didn't matter whether it was positive or negative before, because it was just a dial lamp before, but now it's an LED. We've got to get it the right way around. Well, I've gone ahead and I've finished reassembling the power meter back into the radio. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for those 7-segment displays to arrive, so we're going to have to put them in next time, but let's just give the radio a quick test. So hopefully you'll agree with me that the signal strength meter really does look quite smart with its new modern LED illumination. Now I know some of you were a little bit concerned that I was going to use these bluey white LEDs as opposed to the soft yellow colour ones, and unfortunately I only had the blue tinged white LED, so I'm afraid that's what I've fitted, but I don't think that looks too bad at all. And of course it did just get me out of a bit of a pinch while we were waiting for the grain of wheat lamp to arrive. And that's for an input from our test set of about minus 73 dBm. Well, I haven't tried to do any alignment on the radio yet, so maybe we'll get that dead on the S9 point if we do a bit of an alignment, but that's going to be next time. Well, I think for today that'll do. So as always, thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. But until then, bye bye for now. Bye.